Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into the world of pharmaceuticals.
It's a fascinating space.
Definitely. And maybe not the part people first think of, like labs or trials. We're looking at a really big shift that happens after a drug gets approved.
Right. It's moving away from just, talking at doctors about the drug,
Towards what exactly?
towards putting the patient right at the center of things,
Yeah.
really understanding their journey.
Okay, patient centricity. And
Yeah.
that's driven by data, I assume.
Absolutely. Tons of it. A flood of new information about what happens to patients out in the real world outside of those controlled trials. And it's changing everything.
How companies talk to people, how they offer support, even how they plan doctor visits.
Exactly. All of it.
And managing this data that needs serious tech, right? CRM systems.
That's the backbone. Customer relationship management. We've got some really interesting source material comparing the two big names here, Salesforce and Vieva.
Ah, okay. So these aren't just generic tools.
No, not at all. They're either adapted or, in Viva's case, like built from the ground up specifically for life sciences.
Yeah.
But handling this new kind of patient data,
Yeah.
well, that's where things get interesting. That's the challenge.
Got it. So our mission for this deep dive using these sources is basically twofold. First, unpack what this patient-centric data buzzword actually means today in 2025.
What is it? Why does it matter?
Right. And then look at Salesforce and Viva. Which one seems better set up, according to our sources, to handle this complex, often real-time patient information?
Consider this your shortcut to understanding a huge shift happening right now in healthcare tech.
Okay, let's do it. So this fundamental shift from product focus to patient focus, where does the data come from?
Well, the sources point out that pharma companies now need to look beyond their traditional data pools. They need new kinds of information, decentralized info.
And what specific types of data are we talking about when we say patient-centric in 2025?
The sources highlight three key types. First, EHR data.
Electronic health records, so like my doctor's notes, test results.
Pretty much. It's the core clinical stuff. Hospital visits, lab results, diagnoses, other conditions you might have, comorbidities they call them, and importantly, your treatment history. What drugs you've taken, maybe how you responded. It's the deep clinical context.
Okay, that's one pillar. What about claims data? Sounds like insurance.
It is. It tracks the journey through the system, logistically, financially, what treatments were actually prescribed and filled, what procedures happened. It shows real-world patterns.
So not just what the doctor ordered, but what actually happened and was it paid for?
Exactly. Is the drug covered? How long does reimbursement take? Claims data shows if patients can actually get the treatment. Big factor in access.
Makes sense. And the third one, IoT and wearables. That feels very current. Fitbits and stuff.
That kind of thing, yeah. Continuous glucose monitors for diabetes, heart rate trackers, smart inhalers, even apps where patients report their own symptoms or how they feel. Patient-reported outcomes, PROs.
So it's real-time data, straight from the patient's daily life.
Much more real-time, often very granular. It's a direct window into their health outside the clinic.
Okay, so we have the clinical history from EHR, the access and adherence picture from claims, and the kind of day-to-day status from IoT and wearables. Why do pharma's commercial and medical teams need all this? What do they do with it?
That's the strategic value, right? The sources say combining these streams gives actionable insights. Teams can spot gaps in care.
Like if someone isn't refilling a prescription, claims data would show that.
Precisely. Or maybe wearable data shows worrying trends for someone with a chronic illness. They can also react faster to payer policy changes.
So if an insurer changes coverage for a drug,
They see the impact almost immediately in the claims data. Then they can adjust, maybe offer patient assistance, work with doctors.
and it helps target their efforts better. Rep visits, medical support.
Definitely. Instead of routine calls, a rep might talk to a doctor about a specific patient group facing access hurdles shown in the data. Or a medical liaison can provide targeted education where adherence seems low. It makes education and support much more relevant.
And this is the crucial link back to the platforms, Viva and Salesforce. Getting these insights is one thing, but using them.
That's the key. The data has to flow into the CRM where these teams work. It needs to be actionable within that system, not stuck somewhere else. That ability to integrate and activate is the core difference the sources are highlighting.
Okay, let's look at Viva first then. The sources say it's purpose-built for life sciences.
Right, designed from the start with pharma's rules and needs in mind.
What are its main strengths, according to the sources?
Big one is regulatory alignment. It's built to support GXP.
GXP.
good practice standards,
Mhm.
GMP for manufacturing, GCP for clinical trials, GLP for labs. Basically, the strict FDA and global rules for safety and quality. Viva helps companies tick all those boxes.
So built-in compliance.
Yeah, a framework for it. And it has very standardized CRM workflows ready to go. Things like call reporting for reps, logging medical questions from doctors, tracking drug samples, all standard, essential stuff, handled in a structured, auditable way.
And content. I remember seeing something about that.
Yes, tight integration with Viva's own content systems, promo mats for marketing stuff, medcoms for medical info, ensures everything shared through the CRM is approved and compliant. Super important.
So if your priority is rock-solid compliance, doing the core things consistently, managing content safely, Viva sounds like a strong choice based on that design.
For those core structured processes, absolutely. Its design is a real strength there. But the sources argue that very structure can be a drawback when you want to bring in new kinds of data.
Like the patient-centric data.
Exactly. The sources talk about a fixed architecture, integrating external feeds EHR, claims. IoT often means custom development work. It's not really plug and play for these newer data types.
So each new connection is a project.
Often, yeah. Which ties into what the sources call limited composability. Think of it like Legos versus a pre-built model car.
Okay.
High composability, like Legos, lets you easily mix and match different pieces, data sources, workflows to build new things. Viva, the sources suggest, is more like that detailed model car. Great at what it was designed for.
Structured CRM tasks.
Right, but harder to reconfigure or bolt on totally different parts, especially dynamic, real-time patient data streams. Its workflows expect structured CRM input.
That Lego versus model car thing makes it clearer. And is it a closed system somewhat?
Well, it offers valuable data like Viva Link for doctor profiles, but the sources say getting real-time EHR or IoT data into the core platform to trigger workflows usually needs other systems in between. It doesn't just flow right in easily.
So the consequence, as the sources see it, is if you really want to use live patient insights actively,
Yeah.
Viva might just be one part of a bigger tech setup. You might have data sitting elsewhere, making it harder to act on it quickly within the CRM the teams are using.
That's the picture painted. Insights might exist, but getting them to the front line smoothly can be complex or require custom work. Now, Salesforce. The sources say it takes a fundamentally different tack.
Not specifically built just for pharma?
Correct. It's a broader platform. Its power, according to the sources, isn't being a niche pharma tool, but its composable nature. It's designed to connect, harmonize, and crucially, activate data from lots of different sources.
So back to the analogy. Salesforce is more like the massive Lego Technic set with all the connectors.
That's a pretty good way to put it, especially for handling diverse data like patient info. The sources really highlight its built-in integration tools.
Like MuleSoft. That came up.
Yes, MuleSoft is key. Salesforce owns it. It's built for API integration. APIs are like universal adapters, allowing software to talk and share data. MuleSoft makes connecting to EHR systems, claims databases, IoT platforms much easier than building custom links every time.
Okay, smoother connections. And Data Cloud with zero copy? What's that about?
Data Cloud is their data unification platform. Zero copy. Sounds technical, but the idea is simple and important. It lets Salesforce access and use data where it already lives in the original EHR system, the data lake, wherever.
Without making copies and moving sensitive patient data into the main CRM database.
Exactly. You build a secure bridge, not a new silo. Huge for governance, privacy, security with patient data. Less redundancy, always the latest data.
Makes sense. And the sources mentioned Slack and Tableau too.
Right. Tableau is for visualization, creating dashboards to make sense of all this connected data. And Slack is for collaboration, letting teams discuss the insights and coordinate actions right where they work.
So how does this all come together? How do pharma teams actually use this connected patient data in Salesforce?
This is the activation part, the sources stress. Salesforce is built to make the data trigger things. Real-time actions, workflow changes.
Can you give an example from the sources?
Sure. Streaming data from, say, a glucose monitor comes in via MuleSoft, unified in Data Cloud. Teams see trends on a Tableau dashboard.
Okay, they see it. Then what?
Well, maybe a drop in usage triggers an alert to a patient support team via Slack. Or claims data shows a coverage change for Dr. Smith's patients. And that automatically adjusts the sales rep's call plan in the CRM to prioritize discussing access solutions with Dr. Smith. Or EHR insights help personalize the educational material sent out.
Wow, okay, so it's not just seeing the data, it's the system using the data to prompt or change actions.
That's the core idea highlighted. Activation within the workflow. Let's nail down those source examples.
Hmm.
Reps call plan changes because claims data flags formulary issues for doctors' patients.
Real-world access data changing field activity. Got it.
Or a medical team gets an alert. Wearable data from trial participants shows usage dropping. That could signal non-adherence.
So IoT data triggering a vital intervention in a trial.
Right. Or a market access dashboard fed by claims and payer data shows treatment timeline impacts from policy changes in Region X.
Real-time strategy intel. Yeah, these examples really show data driving specific actions.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Technical side. Because the sources argue that for this next-gen patient data, the underlying tech architecture is crucial for the long haul, for scale, for flexibility.
The foundation determines what you can build later. Right. So comparing them, Salesforce, again, zero-copy architecture, better governance, less data duplication.
Correct. And also, low-code workflows. This means the business teams, commercial, medical, can actually adapt processes or build new ways to use the data themselves without needing heavy IT involvement or vendors every time. Faster innovation.
Empowering the users and agent force ready. What's that hinting at?
It points towards AI. The architecture supports advanced AI, like autonomous agents. Think AI assistants that could proactively flag high-risk patients based on data, automate analysis, or trigger communications. It's about being ready for a more AI-driven future using this data.
Okay. And Viva's architecture, by contrast, the sources describe it as
More monolithic workflow design, good for governing standard processes, very reliable for that, but harder to customize or adapt for completely new uses driven by dynamic patient data.
less flexible for innovation around new data types.
That's the implication. It also prefers structured inputs. Data needs to fit its model. High speed, maybe messy, patient-level data streams.
Yeah.
That's not its native territory for core workflows. And like we said, often that data has to be processed externally first.
Adding cost, complexity, maybe delays compared to direct ingestion.
Potentially, yes. So the conclusion the sources draw, especially looking ahead,
Yeah.
is if your strategy involves AI, complex patient journey mapping across data types, or field actions triggered directly by real-time patient insights,
Yeah.
then composability, which is framed as Salesforce's big strength, becomes essential, not just nice to have.
A foundational need for those future capabilities.
That's how the sources position it.
All right, let's wrap this up. Synthesizing the key takeaways from our source material. What's the fundamental difference here between Viva and Salesforce regarding this patient-centric data wave?
Well, the sources are clear. Both are serious enterprise platforms. Very important. But they excel in different areas. Viva is the specialist for structured, compliant execution of core pharma CRM tasks and tightly integrated regulatory content management.
Built for the specific rules and workflows.
Yeah.
And Salesforce.
Salesforce shines, according to the sources, in its ability to connect diverse, dynamic data EHR claims, IoT unified smartly, often with that zero-copy approach, and then activate those insights in real time, driving flexible, composable actions across different teams.
So the central question the sources pose for any pharma company is, as the future becomes more about acting on EHR insights, payer dynamics from claims, real-time IoT streams, is your CRM architecture ready? Can it keep up?
Yeah, it's a tough question. Is your tech an enabler or a bottleneck for your patient-centric goals?
And we should mention the sources do note it's not always strictly one or the other, right?
Oh, absolutely. Many big companies use both.
Yeah.
Viva for its deep compliance and content strengths in certain areas. And Salesforce for the broader engagement, the analytics, the orchestration that needs that richer integrated data layer. It's often a hybrid reality.
Reflects the complexity out there.
For sure.
So listening to this, it might seem a bit technical, CRM platforms and data, but just think for a second how these background systems in pharma and healthcare ultimately shape the info, the support, maybe even the access you get as a patient or a caregiver.
These systems are really the engines determining how companies see patient needs, how they try to reach out, whether it's about support programs, medication reminders, or info for your doctor.
So let's leave you with this final thought to chew on. If the real power of patient data isn't just having it, but activating it, making it useful, actionable right now to improve things, what does that truly mean for personalized medicine?
How much potential is still locked up and maybe limited just by the tech platforms being used underneath it all? Something to consider as these systems keep changing so fast.